Never answer these 5 questions. Machiavelli warned about them 500 years ago, and the warning has not aged a single day. These 5 questions show up in your conversations disguised as curiosity, dressed up as warmth, wrapped in the voice of someone who seems like they genuinely care about your answer. And you answer them. Every time. Because they sound harmless. Because refusing to answer makes you feel like you are hiding something. Because you were taught that honest people answer honest questions, and you consider yourself an honest person. That is exactly what makes these questions so dangerous. They are not designed for honest people who are hiding something. They are designed for honest people who are not hiding anything, because those are the people who give the most when they are asked. Here is what has been happening to you, and I need you to hear this with your full attention, because it explains something that has probably been confusing you for years. You have been walking into conversations, professional, personal, social, and handing over pieces of yourself that you did not know had a price tag. You have been answering questions that felt like bridges to understanding and were actually doors into the parts of you that should have been guarded. You shared your fears with people who filed them. You revealed your plans to people who positioned against them. You explained your reasoning to people who used the explanation to build a case you did not know was being constructed. And every time, the conversation felt fine. Every single time. The person asking seemed kind. The questions seemed natural. The environment felt safe enough to share. And the damage, the slow, quiet, structural damage to your positioning, your credibility, and your ability to move freely through the environments that matter, happened so gradually that you never connected the result back to the moment where you opened your mouth and said too much. Machiavelli understood this mechanism at a level that most people never reach, because most people never study what he studied. The actual behavior of real people in real environments, where information was the most valuable currency in circulation. He was a diplomat. He sat across the table from kings and popes and military commanders. He watched alliances form around shared information and fracture around leaked information. He documented, with the kind of precision that only comes from direct experience of the consequences, that the men who were most thoroughly outmaneuvered in every political environment he ever worked in were not the weakest or the least intelligent. They were the most talkative, the ones who answered every question fully, the ones who mistook transparency for strength, the ones who believed that giving the room a complete picture of who they were was the path to trust, when what it actually produced was a complete map of how to manage them. This video gives you the 5 specific questions that Machiavelli's observations warn you never to answer. Not with dishonesty, not with hostility, but with the specific, warm, deliberate skill of redirecting an inquiry away from the places where your real vulnerabilities live. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which questions are costing you and exactly what to do when they arrive. If you skip this, the pattern continues. The damage continues. The slow leak of position and power that happens every time you answer a question that was not designed to help you. That continues. If you are ready to stop giving the room the map to who you are, comment the words, "I guard what is mine." Like this video, because every like puts it in front of someone who is still bleeding out in conversations without knowing why. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. And drop your location and the time right now. This community is real, and right now it matters who is watching. Question 1. What are you afraid of? This question arrives in many forms. Sometimes it is asked directly. Sometimes it is asked through the side door. What keeps you up at night? What worries you about this? What is the thing you are most concerned about? Sometimes it is not asked as a question at all, but implied through a conversation that is gently, carefully, skillfully guided toward the territory where your fears live. And most of the time, you answer. You answer because vulnerability has been branded as courage. Because sharing your fears has been presented in 1,000 motivational speeches and self-help books and therapy language conversations as the path to connection and trust. And in the right relationships, the ones that have earned that kind of disclosure through consistent behavior over time, that is true. But most of the rooms where this question arrives are not those relationships. Most of the rooms where your fears get asked about are rooms where the asking is not driven by care. It is driven by curiosity. And curiosity, my friend, is not the same thing as compassion. Machiavelli observed with chilling specificity what happens when a man's fears become known to the people around him. He wrote about how the courtiers in Florence used knowledge of a rival's fears the way a chess player uses knowledge of an opponent's preferred openings, not to help them, but to anticipate them, to position against them, to construct the specific kind of pressure that would produce the specific kind of response that the fear predicted. Once your fear is known, the people who know it do not have to use it maliciously for it to cost you. They simply have a piece of information about your internal operating system that shapes, whether they intend it to or not, how they calibrate their behavior toward you. They know where you flinch. They know what keeps you cautious. They know what makes you overreact. And that knowledge, sitting quietly in their understanding of who you are, changes the terms of every exchange you have with them from that point forward. Let me give you a specific example. You are in a professional setting, and a colleague asks, in what feels like a genuine and warm moment, what your biggest concern is about a particular project or direction. You answer honestly. You share that you are worried about a specific outcome, a specific risk, a specific possibility that has been keeping you up at night. The colleague nods sympathetically. The conversation moves on, but the information has been filed. And 3 weeks later, when a decision is being made that involves that specific area, your concern is referenced. Not as wisdom, not as foresight, but as evidence that you might not be the right person to lead in that direction. Because the person who is afraid of something is not the person the room wants in charge of navigating it. Your honesty, which felt like strength in the moment, became the very thing that was used to limit you. Here is the correction. When someone asks what you are afraid of, in any form, in any setting, recognize the question for what it is. It is a request for access to the part of your operating system that governs your caution, your hesitation, and your avoidance. That access should be reserved for the very small number of people who have demonstrated, through behavior, and not just through words, that they will handle it with care. Everyone else gets the redirected version. The version that acknowledges the question without opening the vault. Something like, there is always risk in any significant direction, and the job is to manage it well rather than avoid it entirely. That response communicates composure, competence, the absence of the specific vulnerability that the question was reaching for, and it does not require a single dishonest word. And here is the thing that makes this even more costly than it sounds on the surface. When you share your fears, you are not just giving someone information about what scares you. You are giving them information about where you will hesitate, where you will overcorrect, where you will avoid making the move you should make, because the fear has told your nervous system that this particular territory is dangerous. The person who knows your fear does not have to use it against you actively. Your own behavior will do the work for them. Because fear, once disclosed and reflected back through someone else's awareness of it, becomes amplified. It becomes the thing in the room that is not spoken, but always present. It becomes the invisible constraint on your boldness that you did not know you were wearing until you try to move and find that the movement feels heavier than it should. Machiavelli wrote about this with the precision of someone who had lived it. After he was exiled from Florence, He wrote about the specific fear that governed his behavior for years. The fear of irrelevance, of being forgotten, of having been discarded by the political system he had served. And he understood, in hindsight, that the visibility of that fear in his correspondence and his interactions was part of what kept the doors closed. The desperation to return was readable, and readable desperation does not inspire restoration. It confirms the rightness of the exile. That is the mechanism. Your fear, once it is visible, changes how people calculate your position. And calculations made about a person whose fears are known always favor the calculator. If you understand why this matters, comment, "I guard my fears." Question 2. What do they really think of you, or how do you think they see you? Before I get into the mechanism of this one, let me tell you why it is more dangerous than it sounds. This question does not seem like a trap. It seems like the kind of reflective, emotionally mature inquiry that a good friend or a thoughtful colleague might ask in a genuine moment of connection. How do you think they see you? What do you think your reputation is around here? How do you feel about how that situation was perceived? The question invites self-reflection, which feels healthy. What it actually invites is something far more costly: the disclosure of your insecurities about your own standing. Because when you answer this question honestly, when you say something like, "I think they probably see me as too quiet," or "I worry that they do not take me seriously," or "I feel like my contributions get overlooked," you have not just shared a reflection. You have revealed the specific gap between where you are and where you want to be in the minds of the people around you. You have told the person asking exactly where your sense of self is vulnerable. And that vulnerability, once it is visible, changes how the person who sees it relates to you. Not always maliciously, but always consequentially. Machiavelli documented that the men who were most effectively managed in the courts of Florence were the men whose insecurities about their own standing were known to the people around them. Because insecurity about standing is a lever. The person who knows you worry about being taken seriously can offer reassurance when they want your cooperation and withdraw it when they want your compliance. The person who knows you feel overlooked can give you visibility when they want your loyalty and withhold it when they want your silence. The lever works because the need is visible. And the need, once visible, is available to anyone who wants to reach for it. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. You are at a social gathering and someone you consider a friend asks how you think a mutual acquaintance perceives you. The question feels innocent. Just two people talking about the dynamics of a shared social world. You answer honestly. You say something like, "I am not sure they really respect what I bring to the table," or "I think they see me as less experienced than I actually am." That answer has just done two things simultaneously. It has revealed the specific area where your self-perception is uncertain. And it has given the person you told a data point that, whether they use it consciously or not, now lives in their understanding of who you are and shapes every future interaction. They now know where you feel less than. And the knowing changes things. Here is what you do instead. When this question arrives, in any form, redirect it outward rather than inward. Rather than disclosing how you think others see you, comment on the dynamics you observe without placing yourself at the center of them. Something like, "People see what they are looking for, and I have stopped trying to manage that." That sentence communicates something far more powerful than any honest disclosure of insecurity could produce. It communicates that you have arrived at a place where other people's perceptions of you do not govern your sense of yourself. Whether or not that arrival is fully complete, the communication of it is what the room registers. And the room, once it has registered that you are not available to be leveraged through your concern about how you are perceived, stops reaching for that lever. Let me give you something practical you can use the next time this question arrives. The next time someone asks how you think you are perceived by a team, by a boss, by a social group, by a specific person, answer with observation rather than self-assessment. Instead of disclosing your insecurity about how you are seen, comment on the dynamics you have observed. Something like, people in this environment tend to value specific things, and I focus on delivering those things rather than tracking whether the delivery has been noticed. That sentence communicates self-awareness without self-doubt. It shows that you have thought about your environment without revealing that your thinking has been tinged with anxiety about your position within it. And it closes the door that the question was trying to open, the door to the specific area where your sense of yourself is most vulnerable to external influence. My friend, I need you to hear something important before we move to question 3. The first 2 questions in this video are both aimed at the same territory, the inside of your head. Your fears and your insecurities about how you are perceived are 2 sides of the same coin. They are both pieces of your internal operating system that, once disclosed, give other people the ability to predict how you will behave under specific conditions. And predictability, as Machiavelli documented with exhaustive precision across every court he ever worked in, is the single greatest vulnerability a person can have in any environment where their position is being contested. The person who is predictable is the person who is manageable. And the person who is manageable is the person who is never fully in control of their own trajectory. Comment, I do not audit my value through someone else's eyes, if that just landed somewhere real. Question 3. What would it take for you to leave? Or what is the one thing that would make you walk away? My friend, this is the question that most people answer without even recognizing it as a question, because it rarely arrives in its direct form. It arrives as a hypothetical, as a casual what if, as a conversation about deal breakers or limits or the things that a person will and will not tolerate. It feels like self-knowledge. It feels like clarity of boundaries. And in a safe relationship with a person who has earned full transparency, discussing these things is genuinely valuable. But in any contested environment, any professional setting where your position is being evaluated, any relationship where the power balance is not fully equal, any social context where information is being collected, whether the collecting looks like collecting or not, answering this question is one of the most expensive things you can do. Because when you tell someone what it would take for you to leave, you have not just described your limits. You have drawn a map. And the map says, everything up to this line is tolerable. Everything below this threshold is something I will absorb. Everything short of this specific breaking point is something I will endure. The person who now holds that map does not have to use it deliberately for it to shape how they engage with you. They simply know, at a level that informs every subsequent calibration of what they offer you and how they treat you, exactly how far they can go before the cost of going further becomes real. And human beings, operating from the same self-interested psychology that Machiavelli documented 500 years ago, will go exactly as far as the known limit allows. Not because they are evil, because the limit has been defined, and everything within the limit is now available territory. Machiavelli observed this in the relationships between rulers and their subjects, between allies and their partners, between any 2 parties where one had disclosed their breaking point and the other had received the information. He wrote that the prince who reveals his limits has defined the range within which he can be tested without consequence. The testing will fill the range. That is human nature. Not because people are malicious, because disclosed limits function as permission to approach them. Let me give you a real scenario. You are in a professional role, and your manager, in a one-on-one that feels candid and supportive, asks what would make you consider leaving. The question seems caring. It seems like the kind of thing a good manager asks to understand how to retain good people. And maybe it is, but your answer, whatever your answer is, becomes data. If you say you would leave if the workload became unmanageable, the manager now knows the workload can increase up to the point of unmanageable without triggering a departure. If you say you would leave if you were not promoted within a specific time frame, the manager now knows the promotion can be delayed up to that time frame without cost. If you say you would leave if you felt disrespected, the manager now knows that everything short of overt disrespect is tolerable. Your breaking point has defined the playing field, and the playing field will be used. Not maliciously, usually, just efficiently. The way that any person who has been given clear boundaries will operate comfortably within them rather than staying cautiously away from them. My friend, think about this in a personal relationship too, because the mechanism is identical. You tell your partner what would make you walk away. You draw the line clearly and honestly and with genuine good intention, because you believe that clear communication is the foundation of a healthy relationship. And it is. In relationships between two people who are both operating from genuine care and mutual respect. But in any relationship where the balance of care is not perfectly equal, and most relationships are not perfectly equal, because that is how human beings work, the disclosed breaking point becomes the known floor, and the floor, once known, gets tested. Not always consciously, but consistently, because human behavior gravitates toward the boundary of what is permitted rather than staying centered in the territory of what is ideal. That is Machiavelli's insight. That is the mechanism. And once you see it, you will see it operating in every relationship where the limits have been explicitly stated and the behavior has drifted slowly and reliably toward exactly those limits. The correction is to never define the line for anyone who has not demonstrated through sustained behavior that they will stay well behind it voluntarily. When this question arrives, the response that serves you best is the one that communicates genuine contentment without defining specific conditions. Something like, right now I am focused on building something here, and that is where my energy is. That response gives nothing away. It does not reveal the breaking point. It does not draw the map. It leaves the other party operating from uncertainty about where your limits are. And uncertainty, as Machiavelli understood with perfect clarity, is the most powerful form of protection available to anyone in a contested environment. Because the person who does not know where the line is cannot approach it with confidence, and the absence of that confidence changes how they behave in ways that consistently favor the person whose limits remain undisclosed. Let me tell you something about this that goes deeper than the strategic level, because the cost of this one is not just professional, it is personal. When you tell someone what would make you leave, a relationship, a friendship, a family dynamic, you have done something that feels like honesty and functions like a concession. You have told them what you will endure. Everything inside the boundary you just drew is now the territory of acceptable treatment. And acceptable treatment, defined by the person who is receiving it rather than by the person who is delivering it, will always drift toward the line rather than away from it. That is not pessimism. That is the documented behavior of human beings operating inside known limits, which Machiavelli observed with such consistency that he treated it as a law rather than a tendency. The person who never reveals their breaking point maintains something that the person who has revealed it can never recover. They maintain the genuine uncertainty about what they will tolerate, and that uncertainty, experienced by the other person as the absence of a clear map of what is acceptable, produces a very specific behavior. Caution. The person who does not know where your line is treats you more carefully than the person who has been shown exactly where the line is. Because unknown limits feel closer than known ones. And the feeling of closeness, the sense that the next step might be the wrong one, generates exactly the kind of careful, respectful behavior that the known limit was supposed to produce and never does. Right now, midway through this video, I want to say something directly to you. If these 3 questions have already shown you patterns you did not have language for, you need the final 2 more than you know. Subscribe right now, turn on the notification bell, and stay. Because questions 4 and 5 are the ones that go the deepest and cost the most when they are answered without the awareness this video is building. Comment. I never show my breaking point if you have ever made the mistake of telling someone exactly how far they could push you, and then watch them push to exactly that distance. Question 4. Who do you trust, or who are you loyal to? Let me tell you why this question is one of the most sophisticated traps in any social or professional environment. It does not sound like a trap at all. It sounds like intimacy. It sounds like the kind of conversation that happens between people who are close enough to discuss the real dynamics of the world they share. Who do you trust here? Who do you think has your back? Who are you closest to in this organization? These questions feel like bonding. They feel like the natural currency of real relationship. And answering them in the moment feels like an act of trust itself. Like sharing who you trust is proof that you trust the person you are sharing it with. Machiavelli would have recognized this immediately as one of the most common and most effective intelligence-gathering techniques in any contested environment. He documented that the easiest way to map the alliance structure of any court was not to observe it directly. Alliances are carefully managed and often invisible from the outside, but to ask the participants about it. People will volunteer their alliance map in casual conversation far more readily than they will display it through their behavior. Because behavior is managed and calibrated and carefully controlled. But conversation, especially conversation that feels warm and trusting, produces disclosures that behavior never would. When you tell someone who you trust, you have done several things simultaneously. You have revealed your alliance structure. You have identified the people you would defend and the people whose defense of you could be exploited. You have shown the person asking which relationships in your network are load-bearing, which ones, if disrupted, would affect your stability. And you have given them the information they need, should they ever need it, to either align with your allies or position against them. None of this requires malicious intent. It simply requires the information to exist in someone else's mind. And once it exists there, the dynamics it produces are beyond your control. My friend, here is what this looks like in a specific real-life situation. A colleague you consider a friend asks, in a conversational and apparently genuine way, who you really trust on the team. You answer. You name 2 or 3 people. You explain why, their consistency, their integrity, the way they have shown up for you in specific moments. The conversation feels bonding. It feels like you just deepened a friendship by sharing something real. And then, 3 months later, when a political shift occurs in the team, a restructuring, a contested promotion, a disagreement about direction, the person you confided in knows exactly which relationships to put pressure on if they need to weaken your position. Not because they planned this when they asked the question, because the information is now available for any purpose the situation produces. And situations, in any professional environment, produce pressures that nobody anticipated when the information was first shared. The correction is simple and hard. When someone asks who you trust, redirect. Talk about what you value in professional relationships rather than naming specific people who embody those values. Talk about the qualities that earn your loyalty rather than identifying the individuals who currently hold it. Let the answer be genuine and warm and engaged, without containing the specific, actionable alliance mapping information that the question was reaching for. Something like, I trust the people who show up consistently and who act the same whether I am in the room or not. That tells the person asking what your values are, without giving them a list of names that can be used as a map. Let me tell you what Machiavelli would say to you right now if he could sit across from you and talk about this directly. He would say that your alliances are the most structurally important part of your position in any environment. Not your skills, not your credentials, not your track record, your alliances. Because skills can be matched, credentials can be equaled, track records can be reframed. But alliances, genuine, tested, durable relationships with people who have demonstrated through behavior that they will act in your interest when it matters, are the one thing that cannot be easily replicated or undermined from the outside, unless the people outside the alliance know who is in it. The moment the alliance is visible, it becomes targetable. The moment the map is known, the routes can be blocked. This is why the most sophisticated operators in any environment never publicly identify their closest allies. They do not deny having them. They simply do not name them. They let the alliances do their work quietly, through behavior rather than declaration. And the work that quiet alliances do, the information that flows through them, the support that mobilizes through them, the positioning that is coordinated through them, is far more effective when it operates in the space that the rest of the room cannot see. Comment, I protect my alliances, if you have ever shared who you trust with someone who later used that information in ways you did not anticipate. Before I get into the last question, let me tell you something about why I saved this one for last. Questions 1 through 4 each target a specific piece of your internal architecture, your fears, your insecurities, your limits, and your alliances. Question 5 targets something deeper than all of them. It targets the engine, the thing that drives everything else. The reason you get up in the morning, and the reason you stay up at night, and the reason you endure the things you endure in environments that do not always feel like they deserve your endurance. Your desire, what you want. And what you want, once it is known, is the master key to everything else about you. Question 5. What do you really want, or what would make you happy? This is the last question, and it is the most dangerous of all 5. Not because the answer is embarrassing or controversial, because the answer, given fully and honestly, reveals the single most powerful lever available to anyone who wants to influence your behavior, your desire, what you want, what you are reaching for, what you would give significant things to have. Once that is known, once the shape of your desire is clearly visible to the people in your environment, every interaction you have with those people is conducted against the backdrop of what they now know you are hungry for. And hunger, my friend, is the most efficient source of leverage in any human dynamic. Machiavelli studied desire with the same clinical precision he brought to every other feature of human behavior. He observed that the men who disclosed their deepest ambitions were the men who paid the highest price for those ambitions, not because the ambitions were wrong, but because the disclosure invited interference. The person who wants something visibly is the person who can be managed through the offering and withholding of that thing. The colleague who knows you want a promotion can dangle the possibility of support as a way to secure your cooperation on matters that serve their interest. The person who knows you want a relationship to work can use the threat of withdrawal as leverage in every disagreement. The system that knows you want stability can use the implied risk of instability to keep you compliant. Every visible desire is a door, and behind every door is someone who now has access to something they did not have before. Let me make this as real as possible. You are in a conversation with someone. It could be a mentor, a manager, a friend, a partner. And they ask what would make you truly happy, what you really want from your career, what your deepest goals are for this stage of your life. The question feels like an invitation to dream out loud, to be straightforward about what matters most. And in the moment, answering it feels like the most authentic thing you could do. So you answer. You say something real. You name the thing. The career goal, the lifestyle goal, the relational goal. The thing that, if it arrived, would make you feel like the effort had been worth it. And now the person who asked has the single most complete piece of information available about how to move you in any future interaction. They know what you will reach for. They know what you will sacrifice to protect. They know what offering looks like and what threatening to withhold looks like. They know the carrot and they know the stick, and they did not have to figure either one out through observation. You gave them both in a single honest answer to what felt like an innocent question. Machiavelli wrote about this with a directness that is uncomfortable to sit with. He observed that the men who kept their deepest desires private, who allowed the world to see what they were doing without revealing why they were doing it, were the men who arrived at their objectives most consistently. Because the absence of visible desire removes the most efficient avenue of interference. The person who does not know what you want cannot position between you and it, cannot offer it conditionally, cannot threaten to remove it, cannot use it as the basis for any calibration of their behavior toward you. You arrive at the thing not through the cooperation of people who knew what you were reaching for, but through the quiet, sustained, unannounced effort of someone who was building without an audience. The correction is this. When someone asks what you really want, what would make you happy, what your deepest goals are, what you are really building toward, give the version that is genuine without being complete. Talk about values rather than specific targets. Talk about the kind of life you want to build rather than the specific milestones you are aiming for. Let the answer be warm and human and honest in tone, without containing the precise, actionable, leverage-producing information that the question was designed to extract. Something like, I want to keep building things that feel meaningful and working with people who bring out the best in what I do. That is a true answer. And it is a true answer that gives no one a lever. Let me tell you something about desire that Machiavelli understood at a level that most people only reach after they have already paid the full price of getting it wrong. Desire is the most human thing you carry. It is the thing that makes you get up in the morning and push through difficulty and build towards something that matters to you. There is nothing wrong with it. There is nothing shameful about wanting things deeply and working toward them with genuine commitment. What is dangerous is not the desire itself. It is the broadcast of the desire to audiences that have not earned the right to know about it. The person who wants something deeply and keeps the wanting private is the person who arrives at the thing with the fewest obstacles in the path. Because every person who knows what you want becomes either an ally or a variable. Allies support the pursuit. Variables might support it, might be indifferent to it, or might actively work against it. And you cannot know, at the time of the disclosure, which category any given person will fall into when circumstances change. The only way to manage that uncertainty is to reduce the number of people who have the information, not to zero, to the minimum that the pursuit requires. And the minimum, in most cases, is far smaller than the number of people you have been telling. Comment: I keep my deepest desires private if you understand now why the most honest answer is not always the most useful one to give. Let me tell you something before I close this out. These 5 questions are not evil. The people who ask them are not always trying to harm you. Many of them are genuinely curious, genuinely caring, genuinely interested in knowing you more deeply. That is real and that is worth honoring. What Machiavelli understood, and what this video has tried to make clear, is that the danger is not in the intent of the person asking. The danger is in the information itself. Because information, once it leaves your mouth and enters someone else's mind, operates independently of anyone's intentions. It becomes data. And data does not care whether the person who holds it is kind or cruel. It simply exists, available for use in every future interaction where it might be relevant. You do not have to become cold. This is the part I care about most in this entire video, so I need you to hear it clearly. Nothing in what I have just said is an argument for closing your heart or building walls so high that genuine connection cannot reach you. The people who misread Machiavelli, and there have been many of them over 5 centuries, walk away from his work thinking the lesson is trust no one. That was never the lesson. The lesson is trust precisely. Trust the people who have earned it through behavior, not through words. Trust the relationships that have been tested by time and difficulty, not the ones that feel warm in fair weather, but have never been asked to hold weight. And manage what you share in every other context with the same deliberateness that you would apply to any other resource that has a price if it is spent carelessly. You do not have to become suspicious of every conversation. You do not have to interrogate the motives of every person who asks you a genuine question. What you have to become is selective. Deliberately, warmly, genuinely selective about which questions get the full answer and which ones get the redirected version. The full answer is reserved for the relationships that have earned it through sustained behavior. The redirected version is for everyone else. And the redirected version is not dishonesty. It is the intelligent management of the single most valuable resource you carry into any room you walk into, the information about who you are beneath the surface. Machiavelli spent his life trying to teach this distinction to people who had not yet learned it on their own. He was exiled for it. He was misunderstood for it. His name became synonymous with deception for 500 years because the people who read him did not understand the difference between managing information and lying about it. They are not the same thing. Lying is the construction of a false reality. Managing information is the selective disclosure of a true one. The first is dishonesty. The second is wisdom. And wisdom, in any environment where information is the currency of influence, is the difference between the person who gets outmaneuvered and the person who moves through the room with their position intact, their vulnerabilities protected, and their deepest objectives advancing quietly while everyone else is still talking. You know this now. You know which questions have been costing you. You know why the answers you gave in good faith produced outcomes you did not intend. You know the specific mechanism by which honest disclosure becomes leverage in the hands of people who may not even realize they are using it, and you know what to do about it, not tomorrow. Starting with the very next conversation where one of these 5 questions arrives, wearing its usual disguise, sounding its usual innocent, feeling its usual harmless, and you will recognize it now. For the first time, you will see it for what it actually is, and you will make a different choice about what you give and what you keep. That choice, made consistently across every significant interaction from this point forward, compounds into something that no single conversation could produce. Not overnight. Not in a week. In the accumulating difference across months and years between the person who gives everything away and the person who gives precisely what each situation warrants. The first person is liked. The second person is respected. And respect, my friend, is what Machiavelli understood to be the only currency that holds its value when everything else is fluctuating. It compounds into a position of someone who is warm, present, genuine, engaged, and thoroughly impossible to outmaneuver, because the map to them has never been fully given away. Like this video if any of these 5 questions named something you have been giving away without knowing the cost. Share it with someone you care about who keeps answering questions that were not designed to help them. They need to see this. And subscribe to this channel, because the next video goes directly into the specific words and phrases that the most psychologically aware people use to redirect these exact questions in real time, without ever sounding evasive or cold.